Hey guys, I'm sorry I can't be there again. And I'm sorry for the weird lighting in this video. I figured it's just easier to show you some things rather than try to describe them on paper and then pass it along to whoever's in to describe it to you. If it's Ms. James or someone who normally teaches drama, they'll be able to do this with you, help you out. But for the sake of this, and I'm going to say this to the people at home as well, so hello people at home. So I just want to talk about some things in relation to the monologues. So basically, once you've done all the analysis stuff, answered all those questions, figured things out, the next thing you want to do is memorize. And you don't have to have the whole thing memorized in order to start working the piece on its feet, as in getting up and acting it. So I would say memorize half of it, or if it's quite long, memorize a fifth of it or a quarter of it. And my method of memorizing is I need to be in my body, because if I'm sitting still staring at a page, I just get really, really distracted and I get frustrated. So if this was my script, I basically put my hand over my lines and I'd probably pace around a bit. Maybe you want to be still. And I'd learn the first line, I'd cover it up again, I'd say it out loud. It's like, there's no use getting it in your head. You got to say the words out loud. I'd say it out loud, I'd peek, I got it right, yay. I'd look at the next sentence, I'd say the first sentence, and then the next sentence. I'd check if I got them right. If I did, I keep going. So I always keep going back so that I make sure I'm holding on to the original stuff and being able to add the new stuff. It also forces me to remember each line is motivated by the line before. Why do I keep talking? Oh, because I said this, and then I have to qualify that by saying this. Cool? Weirdly, I realized that if I do memorization work at night, when I wake up in the morning, my brain has sorted things out. Not like magically, but if I do the work and I'm a little frustrated or whatever, but then I sleep on it, sometimes a lot of it kind of settles in. It gets filed in my brain. That's just me. A third thing I'll do is I'll write the whole monologue out and try and make sure it's word for word. For me, the act of writing helps get things into my head. That's why I always take notes, even when other people be like, why are you bothering? So that's memorizing. Now, if you figured out the character and you figured out the situation, and that moment before thing is really important, the idea of this character existed, this world of the play existed before this moment that you're playing. So you figure out your moment before. So when you're ready to start, you're going to just kind of, I close my eyes. Maybe you don't have to close your eyes. You just think about, okay, if I was this person and this was the situation and this had just happened, and then I start. So sometimes I give myself a line to cue myself, even if that line doesn't exist in the actual play or movie or TV show. I just think, what line would help prompt this big long monologue? Oh, the line is, what's your problem? So in my head, all I do is think, what's your problem? I got your letter, and I got to tell you something. Does this make sense? Sometimes I call it a slingshot, something that kind of throws me into it. The funny thing is, the more you can do this work, the less nervous you'll be once you start, because you're thinking about the character and the make-believe instead of the audience or the teacher marking, and you're just doing your job, which is acting, rather than saying the words and worrying about everything else. I hope that makes sense. So once you have all that stuff, then you should try different positions. So I'm in a chair. I don't know where to set this up. I'm in a chair right now. So I can start, literally I can play with different postures for my character. I can sit way on the edge of the chair. I can turn the chair around. these all feel really different. I can stand, I can sit on the ground. Because you're going to film these, you don't have to worry so much about the audience being able to see you if you're down low. You're just going to set up the camera. So for instance, if I'm filming myself sitting against the wall, then I'm going to put the camera on the kitchen chair so that it's still kind of above me. Cool? That's much better than a camera angle that is like looking up your nose. Okay? So, try different positions for you and while you be sitting. I mean, if I'm angry, I'm not going to sit really casually on my chair. If I'm really angry, I'm probably going to be on my feet, because to sit and berate someone feels really weird. But maybe if it's just an awkward situation, then maybe I'm in a chair and maybe I'm kind of closed off with my body. But now you have to decide where that other person is. So they might be directly in front of you. If that's the case, how far away are they? And is it talking to one person? Is it talking to more than one person? Is it a stranger? Is it someone you are in love with? Is it someone who's your most trusted friend? I usually, as an exercise in class, have people act out their monologue, trying it with a whole variety of different types of personalities. And you have to do the whole thing to make a discovery. Sometimes it's funny and they're like, well, it's my best friend, so, and I say, well, try it like it's someone you're in love with. And they do it and they think, oh, I know that doesn't make sense logically, but that actually worked. Because that nervousness, it wasn't romantic love, but it's like, I love this person. I don't want to, I need to say this, but I don't want to hurt them. And that difference of saying something to a stranger as opposed to someone like a family member can be really different. Or an authority figure. I would try at least 3 or 4 different versions of just that idea of different relations. And then I think about different positions, I'm going to play it differently if I'm imagining the person standing behind me and I'm in the chair. I read the letter, and you can't play your whole piece like this. That would be terrible, but sometimes we don't look directly at someone. I want to tell you something about that letter. I hope this is making sense. So I'd play with positioning. I'd play with the kind of relationship you have to someone, and remember that you don't have to explain all this to the audience. I'd like you to give us a little context before you go, so we're not utterly confused as to what's going on. But some of this doesn't have to be explained to us. It's my best friend. And what I'm thinking is, it's like I'm in love with them. We don't have to know that part. It can just be, well, in the play, my best friend betrayed me and I'm mad. Cool. A lot of the exercises I usually do are just to really shake up the choices you're making, because once we get into a certain specific way of delivering the lines, it gets really technical, and then we're not actually pretending to be in the situation, and then it's not interesting. So one way to do that is to do a whisper run. So you have to take any I say this line loud and I say this, and you really focus on what you're trying to get across. So like, when I got that letter, it made me so mad. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. So I do whisper runs sometimes just to shake up the language. If I'm doing something like really, really poetic or different from what I talk, like Shakespeare, I do whisper runs for sure, because it makes me focus on communicating rather than saying the words in a pretty way. Usually I do some things to just kind of raise the stakes. It's hard to do that when you can't have your partners. You can't be with a partner and do these things. So normally I'd have, say, pair up, and then one person just walk away and occasionally stop and listen. And then when you think that they need to work harder, just turn away. That's just to infuse importance to your monologue. Because even if it's a pleasant monologue, no one wants to think, why is this person bothering to talk? It's obviously important. Whether it's, I got that letter and I'm so mad, or it's, every summer we'd go to the cottage and swim in the lake. Well, I want that to be important. So I would make that person work harder. Hey, listen, hey. Every summer we go to the cottage and we'd swim in that lake. Okay, my examples are so weird, especially when I'm looking at myself giving them. Once you've been working on it a long time, just like we do warm-up games, and whoever's in, if they want to do warm-up games, you should tell them some of the ones you know, like Mafia and Whoosh, and Squirt. Even if you're working at home, sometimes you need something to just shake yourself up. So if you're at home and you want to have a little dance party and have a snack, great. That's better than just getting frustrated and banging your head against the wall. One of the ways we can do that with a monologue is to do a silly run, where you just give yourself any variable, like, okay, now I'm going to do my totally serious dramatic monologue as a soap opera, or as a pirate, or as a really, really creepy clown. Anything that shakes up how you deliver it entirely. That's good. And then when you come back to it, it feels a little new again. Because when you work on it all day and then all week, it can start to feel stale. And an actor has to keep it feeling like it's the first time they've ever said it, even though it's actually the 100th time they've said it. There was a couple other things. If you really want to shake it up too, you can paraphrase the whole thing. Not for your performance. Your performance should be what was written by the professional playwright or screenwriter. But you can try and paraphrase the whole thing. That letter, man, here's what I think. I want to tell you. So you just mess with the words, but keep the inherent meaning of it to get back to, well, what's the point? What's my goal? Oh, I want to make them feel real bad and apologize for that letter. Couple things to keep in mind when you're filming them. Keep your face open to the lens. So I'm totally cool if you want to set it up further back and have your whole body in. Don't go farther away than that, because basically what we should see in the lens of the camera is what we'd see in the drama room. So if it looks like you're 50 feet away, I'd never have the audience that far away. So even if you want to have it nice and tight, the most important thing when you're filming is to remember that idea of cheating out. So on my camera, or on my Chromebook, the camera's up there. What I want to do is not be staring at the Chromebook. So I pretend, okay, who's playing my best friend? Oh, I'm going to use my real life best friend. Okay, that's Dan, and I picture Dan sitting right there, and I go, when you sent me that letter, so I'm keeping my eye line as close to the lens of the camera as possible, so you get all the face time. And you can and you can look away if you want and everything, but you keep coming back. That's your reference point. And if it's Dan and Cliff and Terry, you keep those specific reference points, and you imagine those actual people or actors' faces so that it doesn't look like someone staring into a camera delivering a speech. What was the last thing? Oh, I'm not marking you on costume. I'd love it if you don't wear something that totally makes it harder to believe that you're who you are. So if I'm playing this tough, rough around the edges guy, I don't have to put on a button-up shirt and a bow tie just because I enjoy button-up shirts and bow ties for anything I do for drama class. Even if it's something neutral, do that. Don't wear something that works against what you're trying to play. By the same token, you don't have to go to like Value Village and buy a costume. But, if there's something that helps you feel a bit like the character, go nuts. Even if it's like changing your hair a bit, or if you do makeup, if you want to change the way you do your makeup a bit. Rilla last year did a really quite stark, believable black eye with just some shading because her character had been hit. And that just helped us as the audience. So, help yourself out. And then, it's such a bummer to not be there. Although if I was in your house, that would be really weird. But I like to really push people in a gentle and friendly way, but I really, really like to push people because we tend to want to keep things as just comfortable and safe feeling as possible. And an actor who's taking risks and works really hard is usually inherently interesting. Even if someone gets up and they're totally nervous, but I can tell they've worked really hard, that person's more interesting than someone who they get up and they don't know their lines. And when they are remembering their lines, there's no acting. They just haven't worked and they haven't put thought into it. So, yeah, work hard. It'll help. Work hard and then pretend you're not working hard at all by pretending to be the person in the situation. And if you flub a line or two, don't worry. That happens in real life. Sometimes we start to say something and we would change the way we say it. We're saying it. Did you see that brilliant example? Of course, you get to film, so don't keep like the worst take ever and be like, it just happened. And I could have refilmed it, but I thought I should keep the version where I screwed up all of the lines. Don't do that. Okay, as with today, you can email me at any point. I'll get back to you fairly quickly. Do the work that you owe me as well. You're meant to put in a full day's work, as in, you'd have 4 classes and an hour for lunch. You'd go from like 9:15 till 3:30. And frankly, usually then you'd have homework. So if it feels like a long day, you're probably doing it right. Cool? All right, I'm looking forward to seeing the fruits of your labor. You're smart kids, so I'm sure you'll come up with good stuff. The mime things were great. So unless you didn't do it, and then you need to do it, that's a really important assignment. All right. Thank you, you guys.